Yes, next.
Yes, thank you, Congresswoman Jackie Speier. I did attend your town hall meeting a year ago in San Francisco, and because of your town hall meeting, I was able to benefit from the services of you helping me with my disability claim. So I am a product of what you were doing. But at the same time, one of my doctors here, Dr. David Kahn over there, could you raise your hand? He was one of the doctors opposing my disability claim. I did not have a hearing loss for tinnitus. I had constant ring, but he considered the problem we veterans engages with doctors actually by diagnosis with schizophrenia, bipolar, some bizarre borderline personality when we really have damage to our hearing. And so these are the conflicts that I wrestle with my doctors, because doctors like him, they just strongly fall back on prescription medication. So this is something where many young veterans are not going toward prescription medication. We're looking for holistic treatment, looking for alternative solutions. But the VA is so pharmaceutical driven that consumers don't have a voice.
So, to your point about the use of opiates and other class 2 drugs, class 1 drugs, there have been a number of studies done that have shown an overprescribing over a period of time. I saw it dramatically in the military sexual trauma universe of survivors who oftentimes the answer was just to give them more drugs. Now that is changing. Now I don't know how you're addressing it here. In Palo Alto, we have seen a decrease in the actual prescribing of opiates in an effort to try and get alternatives provided to the veterans, because there has been historically a heavy reliance on it.
And we've had a strong focus here as well, and I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Strauss, who can share with us.
Please, can I just focus on because I know the doctors have wonderful speeches, but I would like to fall back on this young lady, this veteran, who spoke about retaliation and just being disruptive. If what happens, Congresswoman Speier, is if we complain about these treatment programs that are pharmaceutical driven, and my doctor right here, hello, can you wave your hand? I have from 2009 to 2014, I was banned from this hospital, not because I was violent. I was banned from medical care, not because I was violent, disrupting groups or anything. I was just filing complaints with the Joint Commission. I was filing complaints with Congress. I was filing complaints, and that itself for 5 years penalized me until these recent deaths in Arizona when I started inquiring, saying, gee, they put me on a wait list for 5 years, which my health deteriorated. And so I've never been, so these are this vindictive culture. It is not a harmonious relationship here with these clinicians sitting here. They're almost fighting us. And so I just feel like I'm very happy you're here, but my question is, I'll ask the question that they don't want you to answer, is how can you help veterans with the Office of Special Counsel that can get rid of bad managers? How can we weed out these bad managers that are here, sitting in this lounge, and they're just saying, gee, this veteran's making me feel comfortable. But, it's bad management. And my concern is, can you actually put a little bit more pressure to get rid of these managers? That's what I think can really resolve, because I would prefer to seek care outside of the VA.
Well, if you have a complaint, you can certainly talk to either Richard Steffen or Mark Nogales on my staff.
Sure, okay.
And we will take your complaint and then process it as we see appropriately.
All right. I hope I'm not blacklisted again from some of you federal VA managers, administrators, Dr. Khan, because it seems like they aggressively...
I recognize that you have a complaint and you would like to file it, and we're going to take every step to address it.
Okay.
I do think that people who work here, for the most part, are here because they want to serve the veterans. So I think, you know, I don't want to have us painting with a broad
Yeah.
brush. I mean,
Yeah.
and if there's some issues, let's see if we can resolve them, okay?
Yes.
All
And
right.
their final letter for me to get reinstated is I could not go to the media. I could not post any complaints on social media.
Well, I'd like to see that letter.
Oh,
Can I see
definitely.
that letter?
Can I get-
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would appreciate it, thanks.
All right, good afternoon, Honorable Congresswoman Jackie Speier, and to VA Fort Miley, Bonnie Grant. My question here, I think, would be addressing the issue of utilizing non-veteran programs, I presume. Because I think I'm a victim of one. Meaning that I've gotten a service connected. I didn't get hurt when I was in the military, but I came here to Fort Miley, and I had one of those foot and ankle injuries where I had, you know, like Dr. Garber would say, try as you go, because there are multiple injuries, which are getting worse, which led to a biomechanics surgery. Not to get into my case. What I'm looking at here is that I was given a service-connected compensation, and then it was switched outside of the lawful rules to a non-service connected pension. And I presume that that's for low income, and I'm wondering if our military benefits are going to others outside of our United States of America, Armed Forces veterans.
Now, are you talking about disability now or health care?
We're talking about both. I mean, for instance, my doctors had, back in June the 8th, 2010, did my foot and ankle for permanent disability. My primary treating physician had made it clear that my injury was from 2007 to 2010. It forced me to get on GA. Once I got on GA, it was understood that I went to the state of California, well, state compensation insurance fund, because my employer I got hurt for, he was an employer who was hiring employees to work for a DOD, he was subcontracted with a DOD contractor.
But you were in the workers' compensation system, it sounds like, through the state.
Well,
You know, you're
yes,
getting into the details of your case. So the question you want to ask, though, is what?
I got from the VA here at Fort Miley, permanent disability. When the records were cooked in the workman comp case, they ended up claiming I didn't have it. They claimed that they put me on modified work. I've never been on modified work.
All right, so that sounds like a case. So would you talk to either Mark or Richard, and we'll look into it for you?
Okay, one other thing I think is more important, because I listened to what Bonnie Graham was talking about. I presume this would come under utilizing non-VA programs. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Hello, Congresswoman Jackie Speier. You look a whole lot better in person than you do on TV.
They put 10 pounds on you.
I think that it's really sad that we have to have this forum in the first place because of all the veterans of every war. I mean, they should be able to get health care without having to get a runaround and all that. But in my case, my wife felt that we needed to get divorced because, one, she wanted to marry me, not my symptoms and stuff. But she couldn't handle that, and she said, you will probably get attention a whole lot quicker if you're single than if you're married. And I got lightning struck big time, because I was only 3 weeks sheltered, and then
Oh, you were in a homeless shelter?
yes, and luckily someone talked to me about going to Swords Plowshares, and then I got into one of their programs. If I was married, none of this was, when I was married, I mean, I was diagnosed with PTSD a year ago. I didn't start taking any classes or having any sort of treatment until after I was divorced.
So
Why?
I would find it hard to believe that you're treated differently because you're single than married.
They were
But-
looking at the money.
But the resources are made available to people who are in a homeless setting in a more, I think, expeditious fashion, because oftentimes they're in a more fragile condition. Obviously, they don't have a roof over their heads. So there's more triaging that goes on in terms of making sure that the support services come in and do the evaluation and then get you to the right place. I mean, that's my speculation. I don't.
Well, and
It
our
should.
downtown clinic has walk-in capacity, and we're really trying to work with both veterans and family members. So we have to talk further to see more specifics of your experience to try to understand that.
Well, I, joined the VA. One, I didn't even know that this was even available to me. Nobody in the Navy told me when I was getting out.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from veterans, that they, for instance, don't know that they can get free eyeglasses and free hearing aids and resources that you aren't eligible for instance, through Medicare. And we have not been doing a good enough job in kind of presenting that information to military when they're being discharged. But on the other side of that coin is they're so interested in getting the heck out and getting home and being back with their families that sometimes even if the information is provided to them, they're not necessarily that engaged in wanting to listen to it because they're so understandably interested in getting home. So we've got to find new ways of communicating on a more regular basis.
So that's the exact reason why I was talking about outreach before, because I think there's a lot of instances where this is most likely the case. We've certainly received this feedback. In the second row there, Gita Uppel is our Director for Strategy and Outreach. And we've been doing a gap analysis throughout to see where our services are, what the needs are, and to really put together a plan to do a lot of education and to supplement what we might not provide, and to really pull family members in from an education perspective because they're key support to all the veterans. So I think that's something that's very important.
Probably.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Leo Madrid. I'm a 10-year Navy veteran, served in the Gulf War over a dozen deployments. And I currently have a claim that's pending, going on its 6th year, and no end in sight. And I can say without reservation, the biggest mistake I made my entire life was coming into the VA for help when in crisis. Before coming to the VA, I enjoyed a lot of success. I had a 6-digit income, nice home, friends, all the trappings of success. After coming to the VA, I was misdiagnosed, mistreated, and lost everything. For the last 6 years plus, I've been in an endless loop of referrals and services to people who seems like the best, most skilled part of what they do is referring you to somebody else. Last year, I was one of the 70 veterans at the Veterans Hall, Veterans Building. I was invited to discuss our claims. Sitting down with one of your claims counselors, I was told that there is a problem with my claim.
Are you talking about disability now?
It was a service connection claim, sort of. Yeah. Disability does have a part to do with it, but it's just it's the claim system that you get looped into.
Right.
And I was told that there was a problem with my claim, which is why I was there in the first place, and that was all they could tell me. 2 email letters, or 2 emails followed up to your office went completely ignored. And being ignored is one of the most dehumanizing things one can go through. And the question I have is, where does the buck stop? Who's actually in charge around here? Who is not going to tell me to go someplace else?
Well, if you have contacted my office for assistance to determine where your claim is relative to the office in Oakland for disability, then we have processed virtual. I can't imagine that we have not communicated with you. If we have, I apologize.
No communication whatsoever.
I apologize then. And I would have you talk to Richard or Mark.
That particular claim is not in our area. It went to another member of Congress. So they
All right, so
probably-
do you live, where do you live, sir?
In the Mission?
In the
You call it
Mission.
living?
to Pelosi.
So you're in Congresswoman Pelosi's district.
Yeah.
But we'll work with you and we'll get you some assistance, all right? No buck passing at this point, all right? We'll work on it, we'll fix it, okay?
Do I have your word?
You have my word.
I've got
I can't
it.
promise you the resolution you want, but we will make sure it gets processed in a
I'm
timely
recording
fashion.
that.
All right. That's illegal to do without asking me, but that's all right.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say I don't like to just complain about everything. I like to recognize and commend everyone here who works for the VA for the hard work that they do. And I know that they're only doing the best they can with what they have to work with. And I've had 6 surgeries in ortho in the last 6 years, and that's the A team over there. It's been a struggle, and I believe the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I've used every avenue to be heard, from patient advocates to social workers to calling the medical center directors. And a lot of the problems here at the VA is communication and everyone being at the same page. I learned in the Marine Corps to honor my commitments. And a lot of times there's no follow-up. And when I dot my I's and cross the T's, and I trust that someone says, I will call you, or I'll follow that up, that's what's gonna happen. And then months later, I call, oh, we didn't, we dropped the ball on that. And then it just keeps happening over and over, and it's really frustrating. And one of the things
Have you sought the services of the patient advocate here?
I have. Recently, there's a new lady, Janice Hubert, I believe her name is. I had one of those ankle replacements last year, and that surgical experience, when I got that survey in the mail, they asked me on a scale from 0 to 10, what was my experience? I gave it a 0. It was the most horrible, demeaning, it was just very emotional, just whatever could go wrong went wrong. I'm happy with the results, but he was saying there's a special guy there. I didn't even see the surgeon after my surgery, and I was promised that he would come see me. I didn't see him for months later. And don't tell me something that you're not going to do. And I don't want to get into war stories and all of that, because I got a lot of them. But one of the difficulties I run into is connecting the 2 systems in the VA, the San Francisco and the Northern California healthcare system. You talked about computer systems. They can't see what's over there, and they can't see the northern. Am I too close?
I don't know. Maybe tip it
She
down.
said-
No, why don't you, I think she's talking, I think you're talking on either side of the microphone. Talk directly into the microphone.
There you go, right there's fine.
Okay. So, like if I order a medication here, I live in the East Bay area, and they want me to come here and pick it up, and it would be nice if they could send the order over there and I could pick it up there. And I've had difficulties with that, where I've come to pick up this medicine and they say it's not here, just recently. And it was on the shelf, but nobody took it out the box and did the codes or whatever it is. They, said that it was, they physically saw it, but it wasn't checked in. And I went home. Anyway, that's one issue with the pharmacy that I have. And then with the fee for service, there's a delay in physical therapy. I live in the East Bay. It's not feasible for me to drive an hour to come here for physical therapy, so they say go to Oakland. Oakland's too busy, so then I get fee for service. I find that, and the people don't get paid, the providers don't get paid in a timely manner, they keep getting rejected. It takes 2-3 years, and I just got a letter, email from my physical therapist saying that they were no longer going to accept Oakland claims because it goes through mayor. It's just a mess, this fee for service, and there's no one they can contact, or they don't get feedback. And I've also experienced a long wait in dental. I had an abscess tooth that I needed to get taken care of to be cleared for surgery, and I was unable to get that done. It kind of went away. Then it came back again. And then I had ended up paying $3,000 of my own money, which I'm service-connected vet, so they give me that money for my compensation. I use that money to get that tooth taken care of so I could have that ankle replacement, which I needed, and I love it. I'm very happy now. I can walk a lot better. But now I'm gonna have a knee replacement in January 11th, and the VA is a whole, another thing is I'm service-connected, and there has to be a better connection between the doctors. When when you're service-connected, they say, take this to the doctor and have him fill this out. Now they have this ready-made claim or whatever it's called. I took it to the ankle guy, so I don't do paperwork. Well, who does it? You have to make a special appointment for
All right, let's see if we
that?
can get that answered. And you've had a string of questions and comments here. So let's just get that one answered, and then I'll have to take the next.
So clearly, especially if you have an upcoming surgery, we want to do it right. Sorry if we haven't experienced the best processes. I think I was gathering in several things you said when you talked about things going through Mare Island, that's Northern Cal versus San Francisco, and that we need to coordinate that care and those processes between the various organizations. You shared a lot of information. I'm not quite sure how to best respond here today. And I'd really like to ask Natalie and Janice is there to maybe meet with you before you leave, and so that we can resolve it and make the experience a very good one going forward.
But the question about taking a form to a doctor to get approval so she can have the surgery, she said there's some quicker
No, not approval for the surgery, for my disability claim, for the C&P. I'm service-connected.
Yes.
And once you have,
So,
I think I can.
You can help us.
All right.
He's
What she's
from the
talking about,
VBA.
Is the DBQs. Okay, so one of the things is private physicians can fill out a DBQ so that there doesn't have to be a compensation and pension exam. It's in lieu of that. Those DBQs can also be filled out by our VA private physician as well. And so that's something that has been at times awkward for those VA doctors to do those DBQs.
because they're not accustomed to doing it.
They're not accustomed to doing them, but usually they'll do something like DBQ clinic. There's other ways to get around that. But that's what she's talking about, I believe, is her DBQ.
All right.
yeah, some of that's true.
All right.
The social worker came to see me. She didn't come to see me. She called me and said, what do you want? And I said, well, I mean, I made I had a list, I write everything down, I bring it with me, and I'm prepared. And I said, I already told you what I needed.
All right.
And anyway, Janice knows, she helped me, and I'm very happy with.
Janice will work with you further so we can,
Okay.
those processes.